first round pick in 9 years. And previous management had a different plan on how to deal with draft picks, but we covet draft picks, and so it's an important week for us leading up to the draft here.
Well, definitely. Well, we'll get right into it here with you and start just picking your brain on things here. We talked tonight as well to Jim Veltman, obviously the GM for the Riptide, and we just got his take on what he looks for building a team. I want to ask you, Dan, when you're putting together a team here, we've seen what you did with Biz Nasty and the fun things, to get eyeballs onto the team, but you do different things throughout the draft to try to build this up and have fun with it. For you guys, what are you guys looking to add to this squad, and not just for this upcoming season, but obviously for the future as well? Do you feel there's key positions and key holes that need to be filled that you can address through the draft? And like you said, you covet draft picks, so obviously there's got to be some things you're looking at here.
Well, ideally, we'd like to, we got Reed Bowering last year, who we feel is going to be, he's like a new age hybrid player that can play at both ends. We'd like to get another D-tranny guy. But, if the right player's not available for us, there's some really, really high-end offensive players coming out of Ontario that might be available in the four-hole, and we're certainly, we'd love to pick one of those as well. You can't turn a blind eye to the talent that is going to be available there. What we're not going to do is we're not going to draft a player that, say, is 8th or 9th on our board just because he fits into the need that we have on the back end. We're going to take the best player available, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, no, it's not a cliche thing to say. The best player available, if someone falls in your lap, you definitely have to take them. For you guys, obviously, you had the draft last year. We lost the season, free agency, and everything like that. What are you guys looking for out of this draft to build towards for the Warriors? And then obviously going into camp, it's going to be a lot more players, and I think a lot of teams are used to having at a camp, but obviously you want to give everybody a fair shake and see what you have. I'm wondering, is there anything you're looking for in particular out of the guys that you get this weekend and out of the guys that you've already got? We've talked about who you got last year as your coveted pick, but is there anyone else you're looking for, and what strikes a player for you, Dan, that is a guy that can definitely contribute and be a part of this roster?
Well, one of the things we've tried to address in the 3 years that we've been with the club here is making sure that you surround yourself with both coaching staff and players that have character on and off the floor. And so we weeded out players that may not fit into that category. And so when you add players like, Brett Mitski that we got 2 years ago as a UFA, or Garrett McIntosh on the back end, and recently we added Marty Dinsdale. These guys have all won at the NLL level and at the junior level, and then you can throw in a guy like Reed Bowering last year. Those are the types of players that we want to build be our core players moving forward. We don't have the depth that some of the other teams in the league have. That's what we're working towards. When we started 3 years ago, we were left with 3 picks, and our first pick wasn't until the 4th round, and we had to live with that for 2 years, year 1, year 2. And now we're at the point where we're drafting in the 1st and 2nd rounds. Next year, our cupboard is starting to fill up. We've got 10 picks coming in the 2022 draft. And so, again, it's back to the mantra about the draft picks are so important to us. So this year, very talented offensive, 4 or 5 guys that are very talented offensively, and then you've got some really good D-transition guys that are right in the mix there. So either way, we're going to end up with a very good player, and that's what we're excited about.
No, definitely. We go and you talk about the draft capital the Warriors have, and I'm wondering for this season. You never want to say a season, you're going into it with the mindset that you're gonna, maybe coop more assets and build towards the next draft and make sure that you're setting yourself up for the future, like you said. But what is the mindset going into this season? Obviously, every team wants to win a championship, but for you guys, is there a strategy in place here that you're willing to follow through and not deviate from?
Well, I mean, realistically, when we look at some of the other teams, specifically in the Western Division, our goal this year is to get in the playoffs and get our players a taste of what it is to play NLL playoffs, and keep building for a year or two down the road where we can compete for a championship. Anything can happen in the NLL when you get into the playoffs because they're short series. The first series is a one-game series, and then it gets into the multiple games. But so obviously our goal is to get into the playoffs and then go from there. It's important that players, especially the young players, get the taste of what it's like to compete in a playoff series. And so that's really what our goal is this year, is to push these guys into the playoffs.
Well, definitely. Well, I'm hogging all the questions here, Josh. You got a couple questions here for Dan as well?
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Thanks for doing this.
Hi.
How much do you value like a player's what they can bring to the dressing room? So, say you got a guy who's he's always in good spirits. He's bringing the drive. He's a real good team player. Do you value that in your draft stock, or am I overthinking that? A front office values that more than I think they are.
It certainly comes into the mix. We have our scouts and our coaching staff that this year has been a little bit different because there hasn't been that much lacrosse being played other than the different showcases that have been being put on by Ontario and BC. But we obviously look at the lacrosse talent first and foremost, but then we dig into what type of individual are they, and we do that through our interview process and then talking with our scouts, and we also talk with the coaches of these players and find out what type of individual, what type of teammate is he, and that definitely adds into the thought process when we're going to make a decision on a young guy.
For sure. I don't know if you're able to elaborate on this, but what's that interview process like for the player? What do you try and see what they have? Do you throw any questions at them that might throw them off a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they're very casual. First thing you want to do is, they're young kids, and I'm sure they're very nervous, so you want to relax them and, ask them some non-lacrosse related questions just to get them talking. And, one of the questions I ask quite often is, like, what is your life plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm specifically talking about outside of lacrosse. I know you want to be a lacrosse player and you want to play in the NLL, but what do you have planned? Are you going to university? Are you getting a trade? Or what is your plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then you let him explain what he's doing, and then you find out a little bit about, okay, well, this kid's got his head screwed on straight because he's got a life plan.
Right. No, I think that's so important because I hear stories, especially out of the hockey world, where some of the interviews can be super intimidating and it kind of throws the players off, and maybe they don't get the best first impression. So, I like the way you guys approach these interviews. Sounds like you're doing it right. And
we don't want to put any fear into them. We want to relax them and get them to just talk to us. And a lot of the questions are, I would say, more on the non-lacrosse related, trying to get to know the individual. We do ask some specific lacrosse ones, like who do you, model your game after, and get them talking about that. But more of it is just finding out what makes this kid tick, and you'll be surprised on how these kids respond.
Right. Were those, I'm just curious, were those done in person or were they virtual this year?
Virtual. We did, in fact, we did the BC ones virtual too with COVID and all that. So the beauty of the Zoom call. We just did a couple. We just did a couple tonight here as we were finishing up our draft book. So very impressed with the kids that we've interviewed.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Have you noticed, like, obviously with COVID and everything going on, maybe a different shift in the mentality in players and things like that, just the way they're, some players haven't been able to play and train and do the things they're usually able to do. Have you noticed a kind of shift in the way the guys are taking care of themselves and keeping, I guess, game ready?
Well, it's not so much with the 40. Well, we're going to be close to that. And so these young guys and the veterans are going to want to show their coaches in a very short period, that they're ready to play. Well, we're going to have to pull back on the reins on this and kind of ease them into this, knowing full well we only have 5 weeks of training camp, but we can't do it the way we've done it in the past where, literally the first couple weeks they're going full tilt, and we're just very worried about injuring these guys because they haven't played at this level for so many years, for 2 years.
And, you speak about talking with the training staff and everything like that. What kind of discussions go into that? Obviously you want to get these guys up to full conditioning, but it's going to be very difficult. And obviously then you add in training camp and guys wanting to battle for spots on the team. How do you manage that? How do you get these guys to where they need to be?
What comes into play there is the CBA. We're in the NLL we're only allowed to have X amount of practices, so we can't have a workout with these guys like right now. So what we do is we talk to them on a regular basis individually and say, like, what are you doing to get ready for camp? It's virtually 2 months away, and so this week I've been spending a lot of time not only getting ready for the draft, but also talking to our existing roster players that we've got under contract to ask them those very questions and remind them of what's been happening in other sports coming out of COVID, that you've got to make sure that you're getting your stretches and your exercise in so that when October 29th comes around, we're ready to go. And so it's mainly having that trust relationship with the athlete, that they're doing that stuff, because we can't currently control that because it's outside of the realm of the NLLPA what they allow. So you really rely on your captains and your leadership group to ensure that they're doing that on their own.
Well, definitely. It's definitely going to be, I think, trial and error for every team, with players and different things. And you probably will see some players, unfortunately, go down with injuries. For you guys, you talked a little bit earlier about not having the depth that some other teams do have. Just per se, there is injuries and things that do crop up. Do you have any contingency plans in place, or players that you're looking to maybe fill those voids with younger guys, or is it just going to be all hands on deck, so to speak?
Well, it'll be the next man up mentality, because we're probably going to have around 38 to 40 guys come to camp, and we have a ballpark idea of which guys are going to make that 21 plus 4. But that's what you're hoping for in these drafts, is that you're finding a diamond in the rough. And a good example is I'll say last year, but it wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago. We picked up Derek Lloyd in the fourth. I believe it was the 4th round. I'd have to go back and he's turned into we think we've got something there. And so that's what we're looking for in these drafts in the middle to late rounds, is you get a diamond in the rough that and he shows something in camp, and then you find a way to make sure that he makes that roster or the practice roster, so that you start building on that depth that you have. And that's one of the areas that, especially on the D side, that we're concentrating on moving into this draft.
Well, definitely. Well, I'll ask you this question here. Every GM kind of has their stamp of approval on a team, of what they want the team to be, whether it's tough, whether it's fast, good transition, good D. For you, Dan, what kind of team do you look to build, and what do you want that identity to be for that squad?
Well, we've tried to concentrate on from the back end out. We've brought in we're bringing 4 goalies to camp. 3 of them are veterans, and then we've really tried to build the depth with the D. And we think that's the basis of our success is going to be our goaltending and our D. We like what we have up front with our offense, but we really want to make sure that we've got a solid D, and we think we've improved our D to the point that that's going to help us improve our goaltending, our goals against. We need to bring our goals against down, and that starts with a a good solid D. And, by adding guys like Reed Bowering and Brett Mitski and McIntosh and a couple other guys, we think that's we're taking baby steps in that direction.
So, as an overall product this year for the Vancouver Warriors, we talked, just before we jumped on about, this season coming up, just so a little preview. What can fans expect? What can fans expect out of the Vancouver Warriors? You talked about wanting to make the playoffs and give some of the guys a taste of what the NLL playoffs are like. So you're picturing this team kind of being that team that may be a pain in the butt for other teams and, putting themselves in a position to battle for that spot?
Yeah, I mean, we're the West Division's a tough division. Only 3 teams are guaranteed playoff spot. The 4th team has to have more points than the 5th place team out of the East. So, it's a tough division. So we're going to have to make hay at home. We're going to have to make Rogers Arena in Vancouver a tough place for teams to come in and play. I think our fans are going to like the additions. Like, since we've last played almost 650 days ago, we've made 5 or 6 pretty substantial moves, and then we've got this draft coming up. So we're going to be a different team than what they last saw, and that's exciting for us. And I think our fans, as far as the style of play, we want to be a really high-tempo transition team that moves the ball up the floor well, and when we get it up the floor, turn it over to the offense, and be a dynamic offense that moves the ball well, and have a mixture of good outside shooters and guys that will go into the dirty areas. But on the D end, we want to make it tough on the offense to come into our zone and punish them wherever we can. And we've got some guys that can run the floor well now, so we're pretty excited about that.
What's the sense of excitement going into the season? You just mentioned 600 plus days without having a full season, and what's it like in Vancouver? Because I'm based in Hamilton. And are the players excited? Fans excited? Can you feel it building? Is it slowly building over time, or are these guys just ready to go?
Well, what we're seeing with they've had a junior showcase, and they had Senior B and Ladner played North Shore in an 8-game series. And now the Salmon Bellies are playing an all-star team from this XLL Arena League this week. And what we're seeing, because we've been, myself and the coaches have been to all these games, is a really good turnout. And so what that's telling me is there's lacrosse-starved fans out there that want to see lacrosse at a high level. So that's exciting for us because, we've got a very good product. And so when Connect Sports and Entertainment, when they get all their people back, because they're right in a huge hiring mode right now, that's going to be our push, is to really push the fact that we've got 5 or 6 new players that our fans haven't seen, and push the fact that when COVID hit, we had a fairly good start to the season, then we tapered off a little bit, but you could see the momentum, and especially in the fan. We were starting to grow that fan base where we were getting 6,000 and 7,000 plus fans, and the lower bowl is around 9,000. Well, we wanted to get that lower bowl filled. We think this year we'll achieve that. We need to get off to a good start, and we need to show the fans that we've improved the product on the floor. We're very confident that those lacrosse fans will come back.
And obviously TSN's jumping in this year. What are your thoughts on this whole partnership with TSN for the next couple of years?
Pretty excited. I've been a huge proponent of, you got to get eyeballs on the game. And, when you talk to people who've never been to a lacrosse game, you get them out to the game, and they don't realize, oh, geez, that's a lot of fun. I love the speed. I love the hitting. I love the scores, the goal scoring, and the athleticism. And so getting that on TV on a regular Saturday night across Canada is going to be exciting for the teams in Canada that, it's going to get more eyeballs on the sport. So we're really excited about that.
I think that all-Canadian matchup that they're going to have every so often is going to be awesome to watch. Just nothing beats 2 Canadian teams going at it.
Yeah, we've got Calgary and Saskatchewan. We've got a really good hate on for each other, and that's part of the rivalry. And so, we're looking forward to that, and we haven't got the schedule out yet, but we know that we're going to be playing the Western teams 3 times each, and we only play the East 3 times. We go to Halifax, and then Toronto and Buffalo come to us.
Well, I look forward to seeing you guys here in Halifax, that's for sure. We touched on the TSN deal there for a moment. What is your overall thoughts? Obviously, it seems the league is growing. It's healthy. It's vibrant. A lot of good things coming. They're announcing new things all the time. Expansion is huge. We had Nick Sakavich on last week. He was talking about wanting this league to be up to 31 teams or 30 teams. That's his vision. For you, the league seems to be in a really good place, probably one of the best places it's been in a long while. What do you think attributes to that? And, we're talking about getting eyeballs on the sport. What does the league need to do beyond just being on TSN to keep that momentum going in your eyes there, Dan?
I think that the NLL, both Nick and Jessica, have done a really good job of attracting not only new expansion teams, but the ownership groups that they're bringing in are first class. And I think everything you always hear, it starts at the top. Joseph Tsai runs he's the owner of San Diego and will be the owner of Las Vegas. First class individual with very deep pockets. And when you see our league attracting ownership like that in locations like San Diego and Las Vegas and Halifax, like these are, so it's very exciting. So we're going to get a 16th team, and I assume it's going to be somewhere in the West to balance out the East-West thing. And I know Nick is talking about going to 30 or 32 teams. My only thought there is that we, maybe need to take a break after 16 and everybody catch their breath, and then have go 2 years out and add some more teams. But those decisions are made well above my pay grade. But I mean, if someone was asking me, that's what I would say is get to 16, give it a year break, and then go from there and keep attracting those top end ownership groups. I think the sky's the limit for this sport. The lacrosse is anybody that has gone out and watched the game. It's a great sport that you can fall in love with quickly.
No, you definitely fall in love with the game quickly. I got to experience a lot of the Toronto Rock games when I was younger, then coming and living in Halifax and seeing the Thunderbirds and just the way they were received. And the buzz around here about them is still huge, so we can't wait for them to get back on the floor. Before we let you go tonight, Dan, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Last year during the draft, there was trades, there was a lot of excitement and different things happening. Is there any tricks up the sleeve of the Vancouver Warriors here heading into the draft this weekend?
Well, I can tell you, quite honestly, that I've had 5 teams to date inquire about that number 4 pick. And I've told everybody and their dog that, we're not in the market to trade first-round picks. It's taken us so long to get back into the draft race, but I'd be very stupid or naive, however you want to say it, not to listen to teams. So we've listened, and so far we're not liking what we're hearing, and so we're proceeding with the plans to use that number 4 pick and get a very good player. But it's only what is it today? Tuesday.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that can happen between now and 4 o'clock Western Pacific time on Saturday. So we're willing to listen, but it has to be someone's going to have to wow us out of our seat for us to give up that number 4 pick.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, there's some top players there in the first 5 picks, so it definitely would have to be a jaw-dropping deal to see you guys move off of that. So I don't see it happening, but you got to ask. It's the juice that everybody wants, right? And that's what fuels the people watching and listening, right? They want to hear those words that, hey, maybe we might, or it could happen. You never know, and those things get everybody talking. So you got to get the chatter around the draft.
Well, we moved up on a draft day deal last year to number 2 to make sure we got Rivalries. So anything can happen. Like if I had a chance to do that deal again, I'd do it in the second. Rivalries is a very special special individual, and our fans are just gonna fall in love with the kid. He's a really dynamic player, and so we're hoping that Saturday evening that we come away with something very similar that we got last year, and we'll be on our way.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that, Josh. Before we let Dan go, is there anything else you want to throw out there? Think we might have lost Josh there.
Oh.
That's all right. All right, well, Dan, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight on Offside LAX. It's great to have you on. Can't wait to see what the Vancouver Warriors do this weekend with the draft, and I wish you all the best, my friend, on Saturday night.
Thanks very much for having me on. I listen to you guys. You do a great job, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very much, Dan. We'll look forward to talking to you down the line.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so that is Offside LAX, where lacrosse comes to talk.